My name is Ashley Morales, and joining us today on Impact Catalyst is Amber Slusser, Executive Director of Suncoast Voices for Children. Amber, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, can you tell the viewers of this a little bit more about Suncoast Voices for Children and the nonprofit's mission?
Absolutely. So, Suncoast Voices for Children started 20 years ago by two guardian ad litems. They were very involved in making sure that kids who had a voice and needed a voice were paired up with someone that really cared about their best interest, as a lot of guardian ad litems sign up to do. But unfortunately, in their involvement with the system, they started to get frustrated with some of the needs that weren't being met for the kids while they were serving as guardians. And they wanted to do something about that. So they opted to form Suncoast Voices. And here we are 20 years later. Our mission is to meet the unmet needs, whether they're physical, psychological, educational, social, for those abused, abandoned, neglected children in our judicial circuit, which is ultimately Pinellas and Pasco County. So we really work hard to provide for the kids that are in care, but more importantly, we work more diligently to prevent kids from going into foster care if we're able to get those unmet needs met to keep that from happening.
Yeah, that was something I wanted to ask you about because your mission has a very holistic approach. Why is it important not only to take care of kids who are currently in the system, but to prevent kids from getting into the system and to care for them once they're on the other side?
So ultimately, we want to create an environment where every child doesn't have to fear deprivation and fear that chance of removal from home, right? Our motto is to prevent, protect, and provide. So we are providing services ultimately from infancy to independence, depending on the circumstance. The preventative measure comes into play when, say, there is a situation where there is a child that's at risk of being removed from the home, and that child has a relative caregiver or a non-relative caregiver that is willing to accept responsibility and care for that child so that they don't have to go into a foster care home. That's where the preventative side comes into play, because we will meet needs that are required or needed so that they can go into that caregiver home. For instance, if a grandchild is removed from their home, but their grandmother can take them in and she does not have a bed for them, then we will purchase the bed so that way grandma can take that child in and they don't have to go into an out of care non-relative home. The other part of the preventative side is oftentimes we'll get requests in for things like beds because a CPI or a case manager will go into a home and they'll see co-sleeping arrangements. And we understand the risk of co-sleeping at any age. The risk may vary and look very different depending on the ages, but we definitely don't want to continue to promote that for a number of reasons. Outside of the risks, we know, that not getting a good night's sleep can create lack of success in school and just overall functioning for a child to be successful. So it could be providing a bed so that the co-sleeping doesn't happen, and then we are preventing some of the risks that can happen as well. So from the prevent side, we're working with the child welfare agency staff, whether they're the child protection investigators, the case managers, the licensing specialist, to keep the kids in the homes, because that has been a big transition in the system in terms of where the work and the efforts are being made to solve problems and circumstances early on so that they don't have to go to the route of traditional foster care that was the path in the past. From a protect side, we want to protect them while they're in the system. We want to provide for them while they're in the system. And so those two components come into play when we do have children that are in foster care homes. And they want a sense of normalcy, right? What child doesn't want to feel like every other child around them? And so those requests come in, and we'll have requests to provide enrichment activities for kids. We will have requests to provide summer camp activities for kids, tutoring. And we want to make sure that we're providing for them so that they are just kids. You know, that phrase, let kids be kids, that's important to us. And so we look at those requests, and our committee will approve them because they know the value for the child. They know the outcome that it can help create and produce. And so they want to make sure that the kids aren't ostracized, don't feel, more abnormal or more removed from situations than they may already feel. We know that kids that enter foster care oftentimes, not always, may have a change of schools multiple times, sometimes a change of homes. So the consistency is not there. And we want to make sure that we're providing as much consistency as we can in partnership with the agencies that we work for. And then that third component of the provide and protect is for those kids when they reach that independence age. So those kids that are aging out of foster care. And we have a specific program that we run so that way we can work with them and setting them up for success as they are kind of transitioning into that young adulthood without a system of support. And we want to make sure that they're set up so that way they can thrive in the future.
And it sounds like mental health is a huge component of that, and something that maybe is not traditionally provided when children are going through the foster system. Would that be a correct assumption to make?
I think that the agencies are really honing in and focusing on that aspect more and more. We understand the behavioral and the emotional struggles that can come with any situation, whether they are removed from a home and go to a caregiver or removed from a home and go to a foster care home that they're not familiar with. We know the imbalance that can cause, the anxiety that can cause, the depression that can cause. And so I believe that the agencies are really working on that aspect, whether it is through their own internal programs, referring them out to counseling services, and not just the children, but the parents as well. If there's things that the parents need to work on, then they are working from a family prevention and a family preservation mindset and standpoint. We just provide the signature program areas to kind of help with some of those needs from an external standpoint.
So, Amber, how have your programs kind of grown and changed over the years?
So we have three signature programs. They haven't been in place for the entire 20 years. Some of them have grown and come to fruition in the last couple of years. But our first signature program is our Children's Needs Program. That is the longstanding program that we were kind of founded on. And more importantly, as to how we serve or how we deliver what we would deliver is the why, right? When you have stories come in or requests come in that there is a family of 6 living in an apartment and the kids are sharing 2 beds amongst 4 to 5 children, then those stories are like, okay, we need to make sure that we're helping this family out. We need to make sure that we're not putting them in a position or keeping them in a position where the kids may ultimately get removed for whatever reason. And so our children's needs component has been the ever-changing dynamic of our services. That is kind of our key program area. That obviously has grown over the years, so much so that Suncoast Voices used to be primarily volunteer led. And now we have a small but mighty staff team of 5 because the needs are not going away. There's been a shift, and a very positive shift in the foster care system. But the reality is we still have families that are struggling, and we still have reports that come in of abuse situations, neglect situations, and those needs are not diminishing at all. So children's needs has kind of been a solid piece of who we are. It is growing, unfortunately. I hate to say that, but we do have those situations still occurring. Our other two signature programs, the second one just came to fruition a couple of years ago. And when you have kids that are being removed from their homes, they oftentimes leave the home with nothing but the clothes on their back. They don't get to pack a bag, depending on the circumstances that they're being removed from. They don't get to take any of their personal belongings. And so when we get stories like a set of siblings that are removed from their home, and fortunately, they were able to go and live with their aunt. But the aunt cannot get any of their clothing or personal belongings from their guardian or their parent because of whatever circumstances. It's heartbreaking, right? Those kids have nothing. And so our clothing closet program, we actually took over from another agency a couple of years ago, and we created clothing closets that are accessible 24/7 to the agency staff and the kids who need it. They get access to 4 free outfits, shoes, toiletries, if they need school supplies, some of those immediate items that may be needed based on their removal is what our clothing closet program, it's called Style Voiced. And that is serving those immediate needs, and from infants all the way up to adult size clothing. So we operate 5 of those within Pinellas and Pasco County, within the DCF offices and the Family Support Service offices, so that the case managers or the CPIs, again, can go in right away, get what they need for the kids, so that the kids at least, have something to go to school in the next day, or are prepared to go to school the next day with supplies that they need. And then our third program has also started within the last couple of years. And this is the one that is geared towards those young adults aging out of foster care. And that's Opportunity Passport. So when we can provide young adults who don't have a support system or a strong support system to kind of guide them into what adulthood living looks like, Opportunity Passport, it's a financial literacy program that we pair these young adults with, and they go through a series of lessons and classes. And it's not just, learning how to fill out a checkbook and managing a checking account, but the instructor that delivers this course curriculum goes over everything from cybersecurity and how to keep your information safe and why that's important, to verbiage that you need to be aware of when you are buying a car, or how the process of even buying a car works, renting your first apartment, things like that, that there is a skill set that they may not often have encountered or been taught. And so we really work with them. We partner with United Way for a financial coaching aspect of it. The youth can earn stipends from participating, and we teach them and educate them on financial literacy, independence. We encourage them to open a bank account. And for every dollar that youth can save, up to $3,000, we provide a dollar for dollar match for them. And they can use that towards an asset. So if they are purchasing a car, if they are going to rent an apartment, we've had several young adults that have used their match to purchase equipment to start their own small businesses. So not only are they learning the key financial skills, but they're also learning how to navigate processes as an adult and have the support behind them to do that.
That's wonderful. So, for people watching this who want to get involved, how can they support Suncoast Voices for Children?
So there's a lot of ways to get involved with us. Obviously, every nonprofit, there is that monetary funding component that allows us to do the work that we can do and continue to be sustainable. But beyond that, we have a lot of various entities, whether they're businesses, civic groups, down to volunteer groups like Girl Scouts, that work with us in terms of in-kind donations for some of our programs, such as the clothing closet, or back to school drives or holiday drives. So we have a number of volunteers that get involved in those. We have volunteers that come to the clothing closets to help out, stocking the clothing closets, receiving in donations, doing inventory, working within our storage, volunteers that help administratively. So volunteerism is another key component for us from that philanthropic realm. Being advocates for the kids, we love saying be the voice for the children who need our voice the most. But being that voice for the most vulnerable kids in our community to make sure that they feel loved, cared for, supported. If it isn't for those that stand up and serve as that voice, sometimes I sit back and wonder who would be that voice for them. And we want to make sure that that question of who would be never occurs. So, volunteering from an advocacy standpoint, being knowledgeable, how you can help from all aspects of the foster care system. And that is a variety of ways. People traditionally think, my volunteer and my help in the foster care world is just as a foster care family. And that is a very key component of it. I know that the agencies always look for foster care homes and families. And I don't want to discount that at all. But there are a lot of different levels that individuals, businesses, entities can help out with that benefit those kids.
And so I know you mentioned that you have 5 clothing closets. Is that something that people can just donate clothing or clothing items? Do they have to be new or gently used? Because I know that's an easy way for folks who are watching this to get involved right away.
Yes, so we do take gently used, although we promote, donating new as well. Because again, you go back and just like any other kid who wants to be able to go shopping for new clothes, we want to provide a level of that experience for these youth as well. And while we do take gently used clothing, we like to balance that with new because we want them to feel, again, that they're just like any other kid. But we do get a lot of donations for that. That is the bulk of how we keep those closets running and stocked throughout the year. And as I mentioned earlier, it's all ages. So we have clothing from 0 to 3 months, that newborn age, to adult, triple XL. We try to keep some in stock throughout the year. And then there are times where we'll do specific drives for specific things based on where we may be running low.
So, will you just remind our viewers your website where they can go and learn more about Suncoast Voices for Children and how to get involved?
Yes, so our website is www.suncoastvoices.org. And you can find information on all of our programs. You can reach out if you want to get involved as a volunteer or learn other ways that you can help. You can go on there. You can reach out to any of our staff directly. Our phone number is on there. So we'll more than likely have a spot for you to get involved.
Thank you so much, Amber, for your time and, of course, for your incredible work in the community and being a voice for children.
Thanks.